Over the past 23 years, Ms. Fatima Seedat has rendered a service and commitment far beyond the call of duty while serving in the position of Site SSA, if I got that right, Office Manager. Accordingly, the executive appointed her to the position of Executive Director with effect from 1st June 2015. How wonderful to have you on our program. I think this is the right person to be talking to. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Fatima.
Walaikum salam. I just want to correct this. There's two
Yeah,
Fatima
please do.
Sirat.
Uh-huh.
There's two Fatima Sirats that work in the psych field for different organizations. So the
Okay.
one that works for SISA, she's the one that's been working for 23 years. And then there's me, Fatima Sirat, that works for SADAG. And I've been with SADAG for 15 years.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for correcting that. We apologize for the small mistake.
It's, no,
But
it's
yeah,
understandable because we have the
okay.
same name and surname and in the same field as well.
Jazakallah for that. I'm very glad actually that you work for SADAG. So I see that there was a survey that you sent out online, just
Yeah,
forecasting what the problems were that people mentioned in terms of their mental health. So let's go through that survey and the results.
okay. So I think what made us want to take the survey and initiate such a sort of platform for lots of people. We all know intuitively that load shedding does have an impact on your day-to-day activities and on your overall wellness. But we didn't know the specifics of what exactly it actually caused and what exactly are people feeling. So SEDEC put together the survey to find out more about the specifics, but then also take that information and then put together almost intervention program or aided support system for people that are specifically feeling overwhelmed by the load shedding.
Okay, so when we talk about load shedding, I think with PT we already have PTSD in terms of, and it's not a joke. There are people that suffer from PTSD when the lights just switch off at home by mistake. Go, oh, the power's gone. You know, there's that startled response which we
Mm.
speak about in terms of PTSD. Can you expand on that?
Definitely. So, as much as we are exposed to load shedding all the time, and there are specific schedules, and we know it's coming, but a lot of people are feeling that anxiety ahead of when the load shedding starts because now you want to complete all your work, you want to do things. So, you sort of try and push through everything just before that last minute. And what happens? The load shedding starts and you go, oh, load shedding, it's and then it's it's there, it's coming, but it still startles you because it's something that it's a system that you were never like used to until recently. So it's totally understandable, and yes, we are feeling a highly overwhelmed, but also it's the fact that we have to sort of it through the study we found that people do not feel anxious or as anxious as what they felt when the electricity didn't go on time or didn't come back on time, and that was very interesting for us.
Yes, in fact, we can have another whole discussion on that. I want to reserve that for a little later. I
Mm.
also see that according to your survey results, employed survey respondents, 74% were expected to deliver work despite outages, adding high levels of performance anxiety and work-related stress to heavy financial demands caused by the secondary impacts of load shedding. Example, food, spoilage, appliance breakages, etc. So, we talk about it in social gatherings. We try and laugh it off a little bit. And, so we can't do anything else but laugh it off. It's also, I would say, kind of a defense mechanism when you laugh it off and you know it's a big problem.
Mhm.
The race towards finishing up before the scheduled time is also, of course, like you mentioned, a cause of high levels of anxiety. Um, I just want to, on a lighter note, say that we can't even bake anymore, right? Because we don't know when it's going and when it's coming back. Okay. However, let's go to the serious note that I just mentioned now in terms of employed survey, the population there, because, we take for granted that there's only an isolated problem with this. The whole picture is really very grim.
It is. I like the way you say we can't bake on time. We don't know when to bake. It's a nice excuse as well.
That's
Um,
true. I just have to pray that my bakery has power, so they can bake on my behalf. Nonetheless, continue.
it's really tough. People from the survey, we even found out that about 59% of people are experiencing high levels of financial stress, which is extremely high. And that's just because through load shedding, we sort of try and adapt to work around it. But now what's happened is you're having load shedding at during the day, during work hours, and how do you navigate through that process? So through the study, we've learned and we've started developing coping skills and coping mechanisms to deal with these different issues. And the one interesting part was that if you're having load shedding during your workday, it would be a good time to take that time out from to be away from your screen, because also screen time does cause a lot of tiredness and stress as well. So what we've been suggesting and what we're thinking of suggesting is during that time, if you are working from home, use it for your chores. Or if you are at work and now if your batteries died, everything's not working for you at the moment, take a step back, go and take a walk. um do all the admin that you have, like your planning, things that you can write down. So through South Africans are very resilient people. And like you said, we joke around things that are serious because that's how we cope. That's our coping mechanism. But at the same time, we sort of have, if through the survey, we've seen that people said that they do not want to adapt too much because this is not normality, and they will not cave into it. So what they do is they are doing specific other things so they can use like different other activities to keep them busy until power is being restored again. And I found that very interesting because it's not normal to have load shedding so many hours of the day. So people are now realizing that yes, we are resilient and we do find a way to work around things, but we can't always do that. But we can do things that will actually help us manage our time better. And I found
Hmm.
it very remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also we look at, not everyone can afford to perhaps do what others are doing to be,
Mhm.
occupied in a healthy way. And I think that is another big concern in terms of the population, the broader population, that just has no choice but to adapt. And I can't imagine the sense of helplessness there.
Yes, a lot of the respondents do speak about helplessness, hopelessness. There was
Mm.
one respondent that actually said that they were so ready to start the new year and, follow a specific schedule. But now all of a sudden, load shedding hits and they come home from work and they have to rush to cook, and the next thing the load shedding goes, and what happens to them then, because there's no family time, there's no interaction with people, which even creates that isolation and feeling disconnected from your loved ones. A lot of people also shared that um, because there's no networks during load shedding, they feel highly isolated because at night, most of the time, they're using it to reconnect with family and friends so they don't feel that lonely. And it's been absolutely difficult for them to cope with feeling that isolation. So even when we looked at the main challenges people were facing, we had a very interesting stat that 4 in 10 people would experience depression or are
Mm,
experiencing depression, which is a huge amount of people if you look at it at a broader scale of things.
absolutely. I
Um,
think the concern, yeah, sorry, continue.
Sorry, it's almost like if you look at your office setting right now, there should be 10 people there, and from those ten
Mhm.
people, there are four that are likely to experience some sort of depression through the load shedding experience, which is extremely high.
What I think also concerns me, based on that, the statistic that you've given there, is that how many people are actually aware that they are depressed? Because it's very misdiagnosed, and it's also we can, the stigma around it. Um, are you sad all the time? Those things. That's why I said it's there, right? You need to just pick
Mhm.
up that phone and talk to someone if you're feeling that way. Do you think most people avoid doing that, or are they using the system to their advantage?
Interestingly, ever since COVID started, we before COVID started, we were getting about 600 phone calls a day. If we look in fast forward to this year, we're getting between 2,500 to 3,000 calls a day. And that excludes all the emails, the SMSs, the WhatsApp lines that we have, and people are reaching out to us on there. So
Great.
there are a lot more people reaching out for help, but the stigma is still there, especially in specific societies.
Mm.
But the more we have channels like your talk show here, where people are openly speaking about these difficult things, the the easier it becomes for people to open up and reach out and speak more about mental health and what they're feeling, and getting the right help they need. Because the more we speak about something, the more we normalize it, which makes it more easier for people to get
Correct.
treatment.
Right. Absolutely. So, we could explore how to identify the symptoms of depression just for a bit, so that if there is anyone reaching out there, for whatever reason it might be, load shedding might just have exacerbated the condition. So, yeah, if you can just take us through some of those symptoms.
Sure, no problem. So with depression, it's that prolonged feeling of sadness, but sometimes it's unexplainable. So if you are feeling extremely sad for over 2 to 3 weeks, then that's one of the first symptoms you look at. Thereafter, you're looking at things like difficulty to get up in the morning. You have sleep patterns that change, so you either sleeping too much or sleeping too little. You having your eating patterns that change, so you either eating too much or eating too little. Feeling extremely hopeless and helpless is one of the biggest symptoms as well. And the one of the biggest, I think, if you have to just create that benchmark, it's when you start feeling like you can't cope and you struggle to go through your day-to-day activities the way you used to. That's one of the biggest symptoms, I think, that would tell you it's time to go and get help and reach out for help.
Mm.
um, and then it's that feelings of isolation as well that you do feel. So all these symptoms together would help you identify that maybe this could be depression, and reach out and speak to someone. On SADAG's website, there's these rating scales that help you also, maybe help guide you, but not exactly help diagnose yourself.
Diagnose. Mm.
Yeah, so I'm avoiding the whole Google doctors. Yeah, but it will just help you
I am
have a better,
happy. Yeah.
it will help you get a better understanding of if you are having all these symptoms, and if you need to reach out for help. Even on the website there is the brochure, and on the brochure itself has all the symptoms and a checkbox, so you can check accordingly, and even take that with you to your GP, because that would be your first line of getting help. So
Sure.
take it with you, and then the GP can talk you through everything that you need to do thereafter.
Right. Now we know that symptoms of anxiety and panic are quite also related to depression, but those are sort of more apparent symptoms. You there's anxiety and there's panic, and there might be breathlessness as well. So I see the measurement here is also quite shocking, in that you've had 62% of people struggling with it, with anxiety and panic. And some respondents reported an exacerbation of physical and psychological challenges. So it just sort of spirals out of control. And I think on some level, I just feel when we talk about this, it's not about somebody else. Because I think we all go through it in some way or another. And, some need clinical intervention, but how does one manage that initial sense of panic or uncertainty? The word uncertainty became quite popular during the pandemic, and now there is still uncertainty, which in fact rolls out into other things, which we'll talk about.
I think with anxiety and panic, most of the symptoms are more physical than so you have your physical aspects that are very profound. So you'll find that your heart is beating faster. You probably have troubles breathing. You'll feel extremely nauseous. If you are feeling extremes of everything, then yes, that's when you know again that you need to go and get the help that you need. But with anxiety and panic, it's also it's almost like this uncertain fear that you keep having. So what we do is then we take you through processes, and currently what we are doing is we're collating information and this whole helpful handy pack toolkit for people that experience high levels of anxiety during load shedding, and what are the certain things they can do. And the one of the easiest way to do things is to do deep breathing. And that helps you normalize all the physical symptoms, which will also bring your body to a bit of more at ease, and also take your focus away from the load shedding. Interestingly, levels of anxiety before load shedding happens is quite high, but levels of anxiety when load shedding is about to end and it's not coming back as it's supposed to come back, that's when people feel higher levels of anxiety. So,
right.
So at that period of time, if you are feeling that overwhelming state of anxiety and all the physical symptoms start coming, yes, and you start panicking and physical symptoms start coming, they're coming at you really quickly. We always say, sit down, take a deep breath. And there's this really nice hand technique that we've put together where you just like have your deep breaths, but you're tracing out your fingers. So when you're going up a finger, you're breathing in. When you going down your finger, you breathe out. And that will help you sort of manage that feeling just for that while. And it's something that's very helpful for people.
Right. After the break, we'll actually go back into that, anxiety regarding the power not actually being restored when it was supposed to be restored. We'll be right back after this break.
Smell of black seed oil being applied by my nani. Now I'm using tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like tib black seed. You can find tib black seed at all leading pharmacies, or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
After 11 years, Syria remains the world's largest refugee crisis.
We didn't flee from Assad just to come and die here.
More than 6.8 million Syrians have been forced to flee their country since 2011.
All of my country destroyed now, and I fear about my children.
And another 6.9 million remain internally displaced.
Our condition is very bad. We have no proper tents, nor a proper living. I have 10 children and we do not get any aid.
The vast majority, approximately 5.2 million refugees, have found refuge in neighboring countries such as Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan. Penny Appeal South Africa has been distributing hot meals and food parcels to food insecure families and provided mobile housing to those in need. Your donation, no matter how small, can make a big difference. Visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call us on 031 110 0573. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Masjid Ibadur Rahman Uteneg hosts an international Qira'ah program on Friday 10th March 2023 featuring Qari Ibrahim Ramadan from Tanzania. And Qari Islam Fikri Abdul Sattar from Egypt. That is Masjid Ibadur Rahman International Qira'ah Program, Friday 10th March between Maghrib and Isha, 13 Chase Street, Uteneg, Karicha. Program will be broadcasted live on Salam Media.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
The Prophet ﷺ has said, none of you will have faith that he wishes for his brother what he likes for himself. For thousands of our ummah, wishes are simple needs that we can fulfill. Dates, bread, and clean water for suhoor and iftar. Join Africa Muslims Agency's Wish campaign this Ramadan to feed the fasting for 100 rands per day, provide a grocery hamper for 1,500 rands per month, and feed a village or camp for 16,000 rands per day. Fulfill the wishes of families in need across the world this Ramadan with AMA. Call AMA now on 011 834 8685 or donate at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Deadly earthquakes struck Turkey and Syria, leaving communities devastated and in dire need of assistance. Over 8,000 buildings and homes were reduced to rubble. Over 9,000 people have been confirmed dead, with hundreds of thousands seriously injured. Families and communities are in disarray as search and rescue operations continue day and night. Islamic relief teams are on the ground providing vital emergency relief to the affected communities. Your support enables us to provide food, medical care, and emergency shelter. Donate now and help us save lives. Visit www.islamic-relief.org.za.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
We're back with our very special guest, Fatima Zahrah, who works at SADAG. And the information that I've actually read and what we gaining from this conversation is actually becoming more and more worrying. Because one of the statements made here is that 1 in 10 have contemplated suicide or had thoughts of suicide. And you've quoted someone here, and it says, I just sat in the dark and cried myself to sleep. And I'm someone who is dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts. Now, I want you to expand on that based on what we said earlier, because we've spoken about the anxiety before load shedding, and then the electricity not being restored and on the scheduled time, because then there's one doesn't know when it will be restored, right? So that can be extremely difficult, because it says here so I beg your pardon, when 9 out of 10 people in the sample reported feeling worried when there is non-scheduled power cut, and a further 91% raising the concern that power may not likely be returned for a long time in the instance of an unscheduled interruption. There's also those unscheduled interruptions that happen post load shedding. It just doesn't come back on. Something trips somewhere, and that's it. And then, we've sometimes, a lot of people can relate. 48 hours, sometimes 5 days. If it's 12 hours, you're lucky. If it's 3 hours, you're lucky. So that's not normal. And when one speaks about the symptom, then we spoke about anxiety, but there's also a lot of anger, and anger in this context can be extremely unhealthy. So
Definitely.
If you can please just expand on both the points that I've raised here. Yeah.
I think so. With the suicidal ideation, what's happening is mental health patients are already sort of trying to deal with a lot, and it becomes even more difficult for them because now, like I said, it's that cut off from support, cut off from people that you usually chat to. That type of isolation makes the person feel extremely overwhelmed because there's no one around them, or no one to speak to, or no one to check up on them. So that's the first thing. With the person that actually wrote that comment as well, you can see there's a sense of feeling alone, and it's really important for people to realize that when you are diagnosed with mental health, or with a mental health condition, or specifically depression, it becomes very difficult for you to actually a sort of
process what you're feeling.
Exactly. And what happens is you as a mental health patient, you have it's sort of like a scaffolding. So you're diagnosed, and then you have to put together a sort of a plan or structure so that it keeps you above your what you're feeling, and your mental health wellness is reliant on it. So to eat on a specific time, to sleep and have a good rest, those type of things are really important. And with load shedding, what it does, it throws you off. So your eating plans probably are disruptive, because usually load shedding happens between 6 and 8. And how do you cook for yourself? How do you have a meal? Then a lot of people are using the time of load shedding. You can see from the stats that we've received, I think 44%, if I'm not mistaken, use that time for a power nap, or just go and sleep because there's nothing else to do. That also could affect you because now you're sleeping at odd times. That means you're not getting your proper sleep during the night, which is most important for your overall wellness. And then it's that feelings of isolation, which has a huge impact on an individual. And there's no support system, no support structure. As much as we paint that gloomy picture, always remember there are support groups. So there are physical support groups and there are online support groups. And if you are going through depression and you are dealing with a lot and you are feeling highly overwhelmed from your load shedding experience, I advise you to join a support group, because in that way you could be with people that are on a common ground, that are going through something similar to you, and you can share ideas and feelings, which makes it more easier for you to go through the process of what exactly you're going through. So that's my a small suggestion to something that may feel like it is very daunting. Join a support group. The other thing you mentioned was about anxiety and panic. It's just so, and I understand there's so many people that are going through so much. With the anxiety levels also, it's about trying to finish what you've set out to finish, which makes it more difficult for people. Because now you are delayed, your deadlines are delayed. With us as well, we've experienced that on a day-to-day basis. SADAG is solely reliant on electricity because that's what keeps our whole call center alive and busy, and all our lines can be operational, so can our other helplines be operational. But with load shedding, what happens is it kills your inverter battery because it only lasts for 4 hours. If load shedding goes over that few hours, what happens to us then? So it does have a major impact on a lot of people. Even though you go to work and you know you're going to be working, there may be a generator to keep you, working through the load shedding time. But if you are working from home, it becomes more difficult because now you have to think about how will you work around it. And at times you're losing a couple of hours at a time, which makes it more difficult for you. So that's why with our suggestions, what we're looking at is practical tools and ways to override that. If you look at even through our actual report, and it says 35% of people have no access to alternative power. And that's because the general public and the normal people cannot afford buying an expensive generator or an expensive inverter or an expensive solar power panel. So it becomes very tough on those that are actually, your general working public.
That's right. And I also think that what strikes me as a contributing factor to all of the symptoms that we've mentioned is that there's almost an invisible force, if you like, that's controlling our lives. So we don't, when a person doesn't feel that they have their daily structure under their control, it becomes difficult to manage already. And then you've got someone else switching, literally and figuratively switching it on and off. So you have to switch on and off according to that particular switch. And the poor technician that's doing that is actually really blasted on some of the groups. But you know why? Because the anger is then channeled towards the person that's doing it, because now you're controlling my life. Right. So there are different levels and reasons for the anger that's coming out behind this very difficult difficult situation that we find ourselves in. We're going to take another ad break, and we join Fatima right after this.
What is going on with this?
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas in cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al-Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Online schooling? Why not? Kurtuba Online Academy is the leading global online Islamic school from grade R to matric, offering South African caps and international syllabus. And it doesn't stop there. We also offer online madrasa for every grade. For more information, visit www.kurtubaonline.co.za. Kurtuba Online Academy, the leading global online Islamic school.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
After 11 years, Syria remains the world's largest refugee crisis.
We didn't flee from Assad just to come and die here.
More than 6.8 million Syrians have been forced to flee their country since 2011.
All of my country destroyed now, and I fear about my children.
And another 6.9 million remain internally displaced.
Our condition is very bad. We have no proper tents, nor a proper living. I have 10 children and we do not get any aid.
The vast majority, approximately 5.2 million refugees, have found refuge in neighboring countries such as Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan. Penny Appeal South Africa has been distributing hot meals and food parcels to food insecure families and provided mobile housing to those in need. Your donation, no matter how small, can make a big difference. Visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call us on 031 110 0573. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Remember, at 12:30, we speak to Zahrah Suleiman, co-founder of Gift of the Givers Foundation, in our profile interview. And after this, at 12, we are traveling to Vietnam with Mohammed Lambert. Right now, we have our guest, Fatima Zahrah, on our wellness segment and the effects of load shedding on our mental health. There's one thing that you mentioned about screen time and how it tires one, but there's another very important reason we need to look at how much time we spend on social media, or any, not necessarily social media, but even news networks, because it's, bad news everywhere. And I know that we learned that bad news sells better than good news on news platforms. So that's all you're going to get blasted with all day, all night. That is one reason one should actually avoid, reading too much about the bad stuff, if you like.
I think what we need to do is put together a time. So I know lots of people don't like living according to structure or something of that sort, but use your time wisely. So if you are going on social media, maybe spend some time looking at the bad news, but then spend the time looking at something positive to make you feel. There are so many uplifting and motivational things that you can watch and would help you through the difficult times. Exactly the same as the survey. As much as the survey has so much negativity around the stats that we've collected and collated, but the positive part of it all is now we sort of understand what are the underlying problems that people are going through, so that we can now sit back and think, okay, how do we put together these interventions? How do we put together self-help tips, which is so essential, because mental health help is so scarce and there's not enough of it. I mean, government budget is 5% to mental health, which is next to nothing when you look at it, and you look at stats and you say 1 in 3 people would experience a mental health condition in their lifespan. So the same thing happens with social media. Spend time if you want to. It's always good to know what's going on and to educate yourself about what the happenings, but at the same time, always end on a good note. So find something motivational, find something inspirational, watch that. Also, limiting yourself from social media would be helpful to you, because a lot of times we see there's a disconnect in family and how people communicate with each other. So because a lot of times you see everyone's busy on their phones but no one's speaking to each other. So we encourage people to actually sit down and have conversations with the people you live with, and communicate with them and share interesting stories. And during that time, even if you came through something interesting on social media, share it with your family. It's about how you feel and how you want to limit yourself. But remember, if it's affecting your well-being, or like they say, when things start affecting your peace, that's when you need to take a step back and reevaluate the time being spent and how much of yourself are you giving on social media.
Right. And if one looks at, so you're talking about the proactive implementation of psychological coping strategies, as you've mentioned. So, I spoke about one, the sense of not having control of one's day, actually, not life, because it's a daily struggle and it changes. That's the other thing. There isn't even a fixed time. It might be for 2 days and then it changes again, and it's so you can't even mentally prepare yourself for the next week. Okay, this is what your routine then can work around that, but it changes all the time, and that's where one loses that sense of personal power. So we need to learn to harness that personal power, because I don't know what to do. There's this, again, that word, uncertainty. Yes, there have been, I see, according to the material I have in front of me, the information I have in front of me, and how people have responded to some of these things. We've had two sort of opposites, and one is the suicidal ideation, and the other is, of course, making things work. And, I see that there's a statement here that I put my head torch on and do the best I can. We may not know when the power will return, but we can and should build our own insulation and frame in crisis on our own terms. Now, is that from one of your survey answers?
It is. It's one of the respondents. And it was
Right.
interesting because there were a few of them that actually said, I feel like I'm not in control of everything, but when I look at it, I want to be in control. So I'll do things in accordance to taking back my control. And
Exactly.
it's easier for a person that's has an overall good mental wellness, but when you look at someone that has a mental health condition, it becomes a bit more overwhelming for them, and it takes a bit more time for them to get into the routine. But how do you get into the routine when there's always this fluctuation of stage 4, then stage 5, then going back to stage 7? So it's about taking back your power, and the only way you can do that is to look at your day and try and navigate through it as best as you can. And at the end of the day, look back and look at all the achievements that you've done, regardless of all the obstacles you've been through and the hours of load shedding we have. A lot of us have achieved so much in that little bit of time. And that's what we need to look at.
Is it, on the one hand, we say to normalize it is a good thing. But on the other hand, I don't know if it is, because I noticed that we would say, oh, at least it's stage 2, which means that we're actually giving in to this nonsense that we're going through.
I think it's not about normalizing it. I think it's acceptance. So you're going through this, this is going to happen for a period of 3 years, because initially when we started the research, it was when they just announced that we're going to go through this for the next 3 years. And that's when we sat back and thought, how are we going to help the people effectively? If this is going to happen, we need to know more about it. So in essence, it's not supposed to be normalized, but
Absolutely.
in the same time, it's about that feelings of taking care of yourself and taking your control back, because that is something that South Africans are so good at. We are resilient and we are able to work through anything. So we're not supposed to normalize it, but we are supposed to continue being the functional beings that we are, because that's what humans thrive on. And if we're going to do that, we will have to learn somehow or the other a few coping skills just to get us through that. Interestingly, before we went on the break, you mentioned something about people feeling out of control, and then they associated anger with that. And it was very interesting, because we've seen that in our research as well, that people said, I was never an angry person, but now I have road rage like no one else ever had. And it's because of the frustration we're going through. Road rage, in essence, is coming from load shedding happening at peak hour traffic, where traffic lights are not working, and people do not know how to use the four-way stop. And it's sort of now learning to deal with added amount of stress where we're not supposed to go through it. So again, it's about how do we put sort of create a balance for ourselves. And it's going to be a long time until we find that. But through the process, like the survey that's given us so much of insight, we are able to give that coping skills and help people deal with certain things better than what they are currently.
Well, at least we have some hope, not in terms of the lights going back on forever, but let's talk about, like we said, something that's in our control. So I think the coping skills, working around it, and reaching out when you cannot cope, that in fact is the most important thing. And I see it's development manager. Very quickly before we end the show, what is your role? What do you do at SADAG?
So my passion greatly lies in working within communities. So I look at different intervention programs on a ground level, and at the current moment, we're looking at we have these 2 shipping containers that we converted into offices, and we do free face-to-face counseling and support services. The one has been running for over 10 years as a pilot project, and we've seen the benefits of having this on the ground, and we want to implement it throughout Joburg, hopefully. But yeah, it's all funding related, so we just wait and see. They are, aside from doing the containers, I do also assist in other developments, like looking at how we can open up more support groups. I do a lot of writing, so that's
nice.
Developing new brochures, information handouts, putting together coping strategies, coping tools. And then on a broader, in essence, it's just a title that I was given, but I have my hands everywhere. So even looking at campaigns like our suicide prevention campaigns, our World Mental Health Day campaigns, it takes a team to do all these different initiatives. So we all work collectively and have our hands in everywhere. And that's basically what I do with SADAG.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Jazakallah khair, and for that very, very important information that you've shared. And we will post SADAG's details on our podcast and social media platforms. So anyone who wants to reach out can, in fact, get in touch with SADAG. It's the South African Depression and Anxiety. Okay. Ameen, you're welcome. Assalamu alaikum. All right, here we are. We are going, as I said, to Vietnam after this break.